Well, hi guys, and thanks for tuning in to another episode of Everything Local. Today I'm joined by James down from Bikram North West. I got that right, yeah?
That's right,
yeah.
Josh.
Thanks for joining me. So tell us a bit about the business and where it all started.
It started 20 years ago with Francesca and my yoga practice. 10 years ago, we decided we would put that practice into something and give back to the community. So we decided to open our yoga school here. And it's been going beautifully for 10 straight years until it got COVIDized.
Yeah, well, so we're in the sort of the studio now. I haven't been here for a while, and I said to you when I got here, it's weird that I enjoy the smell of this place. So
it's a very particular smell, and a lot of people enjoy it.
Yeah.
The smell of hard work.
Exactly right. Yeah,
You know what I mean?
Getting in and getting stuck into it.
Yeah.
So tell us, 20 years ago it all started. What got Francesca and yourself into yoga?
Well, I actually started practicing before Francesca by 2 weeks. I had a motorcycle accident when I was 28 that caused some spinal injuries and other injuries to my skeletal structure. My best friend John suggested 3 years later that I try Bikram Yoga. It had just started in a place at Brookvale owned by Jody. And I went there and went there a couple of times over a period of 2 weeks, and Francesca asked me where I was getting all my happiness back from. So I said, you've got to come and try it. So she did. Yeah. She came down and tried it. After that, we have a continuous practice for that length of time.
Yeah.
Basically, it gave my family such a good result in both fitness and health and happiness, and I saw what it was doing for us. So Francesca and I decided to open a yoga school and see if we could get that to happen for some other people.
Yeah, love that. So you initially went there for the, I guess, physical benefits, like the muscle benefits of that to get you past your accident, right?
Yeah, that was the reason I stayed, because of the mental benefits.
Yeah.
It does more for that, I think, than equally.
Yeah,
as much for the mental as it does for the physical.
Yeah, of course. We'll dive a bit deeper into that, because I mean, I personally started for the physical benefits, and we were chatting about this before. Like, you go to the gym, you start to feel a little bit stiff through doing all that. You don't move as well as you could before. Then you come into an environment like this where it really loosens those muscles up, and I'd imagine that's the main reason why a lot of people get started, and then it shifts into that mental benefit. Is that right?
Pretty much you're on the case there. I think most people start for, I need to lose weight, I need to get my knee to work.
Yeah.
And that happens, and then they stay because they feel so mentally happy.
Yeah.
Happiness is an unusual byproduct of the yoga, genuine happiness.
Yeah. So we'll go into that, but let's talk about the start of the business. How did you go kicking off the business? What were the challenges at that point in time? Because, I mean, Bikram Yoga, people know about yoga now, but maybe 20 or 10 years ago when this business started, not a lot of people knew about it, right?
No, that's right. A lot of people, particularly out here, there was very few yoga offerings within a 20-kilometre radius. I think there was a classic Hatha yoga school, Hills Yoga, and not much else. There was another one down at Hornsby, and another small yoga school at Pennant Hills. So I'll never forget one of our early students saying, "You're really brave for opening a yoga school in West Pennant Hills." And I said, well, yoga favors the brave. We didn't have to market. It actually has such a local community, this neck of the woods, that, it was such an unusual product in such an unusual space that no one was expecting this area, that there was a lot of talk about it early. So it wasn't long before we were doing, 100 people a day. And within about 6 months, and it was quite phenomenal. We've never marketed, we've never used the interweb or the internet, whichever you want to call it.
On the line,
we've never got on the line. I'm showing my age here and enjoying it. Yeah. So we just use the product. Yoga is what it is. It works, and so we trusted that. The challenges were getting people to understand it, because originally, and initially to the untrained eye, it looks like a physical exercise program. It could as well have been a gym.
Yeah.
So awesome. We had a lot of people thinking it's just like a gym. They do what they like when they like because they're paying for their pass.
Yeah.
And Francesca and I's agenda was to always give the levels of yoga that we'd received from it to our students. So there was some arguments along the way in building a stable and beautiful yoga community.
Yeah.
There were arguments worth having. They were all in the good faith of good quality yoga, which is not, of course, typical exercise. So they were the greatest challenges. It wasn't about being busy, it was about being the right kind of busy.
Yeah, and attracting the right clientele, and that's what I see a lot when I come here. It's the same faces, it's the same consistency. Few new people come in, few new people don't come back. It's definitely tough. It's not just the yoga part of it, it's the heat side of it as well.
Very challenging.
So talk to us about like how hot is it, and how do you control that environment when you're actually in there being the sort of teacher or the instructor of it all?
Well, the room runs at 40 degrees with about 40% humidity. That's the goal. I mean, obviously in summer, some of the humidity is challenging because we can't control atmospheric humidity. So it can sometimes get a lot more humid than that. Yeah.
Plus you've got a large group of people in there as well, and that obviously adds to it.
They act like heat beads. Yeah. They manage to stabilize the heat and increase humidity just by their presence. So yeah, it can get busy and that can be a challenge. Look, there's thermostats and readers in the room. There's thermostats that control the heating system in the heating systems themselves. We have doors which let in cool, fresh air. That's a classic.
Oh, I love when the door. Yeah, I think we love when the doors.
Everybody loves the doors. I always ask them which is their favourite song.
Yeah.
They're not talking about the band.
No.
So I've often said the doors are the only thing that get written a Valentine's Day card in my yoga school.
Yeah, I like that, yeah.
Yeah. So, heaters, doors, we can turn the heaters off. They're manually instructed. They're not pre-programmed. We have good, very, very high quality, very, very highly knowledgeable teachers that understand the practice themselves, that have long-term practices. They can read the room. We obviously have a spectrum of people practicing, young, old, in between, inexperienced, experienced, fit bods, unfit bods, heavy smokers trying to quit, people having just been on a juice fast. It's a spectrum. So reading the room and understanding the outcome is probably the most important thing, and it's manually operated so they can make that call themselves.
And how do you manage that? Like, you've got people in the room that are very highly experienced, and then you've got people in there that have never been in a yoga environment before, let alone hot yoga. How do you manage that when you've got a group of different type of people in there?
Well, you said something before about having a large component of people that come back. It's actually the community in the room that manages the frailty of it. So the strength of the room seems to handle the frailty of it. So for example, you might come to my Saturday morning class by mistake for your first class. It's got 45 hardcore Bikram yoga practitioners in it. But it's an unusual thing happens. It sort of pulls them into it rather than takes them and offends them from it. So, the school's predominantly very experienced these days. And I think that is actually what helps get new and inexperienced people through the room. It's not a volatile room. It's stable under pressure, and I think that acts like a cloud for people who are new to it. Yeah. Well, how did you go? Well, what kept you in the room?
Well, seeing other people in there and just seeing the real focus. I think, my wife said to me, like, isn't there, don't you watch what other people are doing? And even though the lights are on, you actually don't pay attention to anyone else because
you're trying to survive.
That's exactly right. You're trying to stay alive and just focus on your breathing. And that's what you're supposed to do, is you look in the mirror, you keep your eyes on yourself, and you don't really focus on anyone else. But when you do sway in the early days and you look at other people, there's that hyper focus. And whilst they're not actually teaching you or guiding you, you can see what they're doing. You can see that it is possible, and they aren't on the mat, trying to stay alive, that they're actually doing the postures. That really gets you through.
Yeah, right. That's very much what I see happening when I teach.
Yeah.
A lot of the experienced practitioners are zoning in, and people who are not aware of what to do, just noticing that that's what's happening, and eventually they'll get there. Yeah. And often they do.
Yeah. So tell us about the benefits of Bikram yoga. Why should someone bring it up? I know there's a plethora of them. So you obviously start with the physical part of it.
Well, there's the states of the body. There's the mind, the blood, the body itself, physical, and organ-wise, and I think it applies to all parts. So the body goes through a number of processes in Bikram yoga. The sequence of the yoga itself, it activates and invigorates every musculoskeletal system we've got in our body in a sequence that's not only safe but very good for it. It also activates and stimulates and cleanses all the vital organs of the body in a sequential way that's also very safe and very, very, very good at cleansing the body's and blood work, if you like, and organ balance, endocrine balance, which leads to a happier mind. Look, there are so many benefits to yoga. There are so many more benefits to hot yoga, and there is so many more benefits to a sequential repetitive yoga like Bikram yoga.
So what that means is that you do the exercise, each exercise twice, and then when you say sequential, it starts from the breathing and then it moves through to the other movement. 26
postures and 2 breathing exercises, which is the pattern of the product.
Yeah, and for anyone that hasn't done it, like obviously James or Francesca or one of the teachers are up the front, they're instructing you on all that. You know, they're giving you little cues here and there, keeping an eye on everyone.
Dialogue-led class, teacher in charge, keeping an eye on everyone at every level of experience, making sure they get a safe, risk-free, beneficial, hard, hot, and happy yoga class.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I like that. Yeah. It's like James or Francesca, they're always at the front saying, put your smiling face on and you're trying to stay alive when you're in the class.
That's right.
Yeah.
Bring your happy, smiling face. It's an old Bikram phrase himself.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, I've been listening to a bit of Bikram at home because we haven't had the studio, so I've been hearing a bit of him. So let's go back to it. So the benefits. So you go on. I'll cut you off. Sorry.
No, that's okay. I think, look, there's too many to explain.
Yeah.
I think the best thing you can do is try it and receive the benefit, or whatever it is for you, then that's the benefit. I've seen people with uneven blood results even out their blood results. I've seen people lose kilos and kilos and kilos. I've seen people with frowns on their faces turn them upside down. I've seen, people with bad musculoskeletal injuries from accidents or mishaps in sport or whatnot turn them back to brand new. I've seen a lot of beautiful things happen to a huge and broad spectrum of people, too many to explain.
Yeah.
So I'd always, like our website says, just try it for yourself.
Yeah, just give it a shot and see how you
go.
Give
it a crack.
I mean, so when I came here, it was about the physical side of it, trying to get moving a bit more. But then I realized it was more of the mental side of it. How does it increase just your mental capacity, just your calmness and your ability to deal with pressure? Like, what comes out of yoga to allow people to deal with those things a bit easier? I think
it's mind-body connection is the way that you've heard it paraphrased for years. And I think the sequence being repeated deepens the mind-body connection down a particular path over time. And I think further to that, the pressure of the room and the pressure of the heat, the humidity, and the teaching pressure that's put on a person wipes away all what we call the little stuff in the brain and gives you a deeper focus under a much harder pressured environment. Francesca and I have always said there's nothing harder in life than a proper Bikram yoga class. So I guess if we talked about tensioning the brain and toning the mind, if you make it nice and hard and beneficial, then the rest of the world seems easy. It's very, very simple like that. There's no great science that I can speak of, purely because science and yoga will always be at loggerheads with each other, and the science will always discount yoga as the things that we benefit from it. It's why I always say, try it for yourself. If it works, it works.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the people that I've brought here and the people that have told me to come here, there's a real passion for it, and I think what you just said really resonated well. Like, coming out of a yoga class is like, you feel amazing, but you feel very, very drained. And then when you go out into life and all these other things come at you, it's like nothing's actually that big of a deal, because you just come out of that room. It's been super intense. Your head's absolutely throbbing. You come out, you do feel great. The days after that, I can't tell you how good I feel. But when anything happens out there, whether it be with business, whether it be life, someone cuts you off in the traffic, it actually doesn't mean anything because you've just come out of such a high pressure environment, right?
Exactly the way Francesca and I have experienced it. We've been together for 26 years as a couple. We've had numerous personal challenges thrown at us in our lives, as anyone does. It's common to be challenged. The reason we're healthy and smiley people the age of 50 is because of our long-term practice and that side of it, which is, it's not as hard as a Bikram yoga class. You don't consciously think it.
No.
You don't go, oh, that's not as hard as a Bikram yoga class. It just means you somehow deal with pressure in a completely new,
you just don't feel you don't feel the pressure, right? That's the way I look at it. Like, everyone's like, you've opened up a business, you've got a baby at home, all these things are going on, you're still waking up early, but like, that doesn't actually feel hard to me. Being in the class is actually hard. It's challenging and very, very rewarding, and that's why I keep coming back.
Yeah.
And after talking to people that I've brought in here, they're like, it's just so rewarding once you get through the postures. It's a challenge, and you've got to be willing to actually go through those hard times.
Sure.
But if you get out the other side, you keep enjoying coming back.
Correct.
And it's definitely not easy, but you
definitely not an easy. It is the hardest. If you want to put it in the category of exercise, it is a 90-minute yoga class at 40 degrees at 40% humidity without a break. There's no exercise program like it. I think there's lots of 60-minute, 45-minute, programs out there which allow us to get a hit. But in my observation, and I've tried all those other forms of yoga, they don't iron out the mental creases or the deep tissue issues that your body might absorb over the years. Whereas, and that's the reward. That is super challenging. There are some times when I'm practicing Bikram yoga that I feel like running out through the wall, or jumping out a window, or telling the teacher off.
Yeah.
Certainly, I'm sure I'm sure a lot of people have thought that in my class.
Yeah.
But it's when you stay through that and persevere with those pressures that you'd normally react to, you become less reactive in life.
Yeah.
Less reactive means more time feeling good about being alive. That's really what it is. That translates into your life directly that way.
Yeah, and with all this other stuff coming at us, whether it be technology, business life, family life, you want to be able to control the things that you want to keep in there and the things that you just want to block and say that's not of interest to me, because you have the ability to do that, right? Just that mental
Absolutely.
toughness. And
that's the other thing, Josh, that you spoke of earlier, that focus that you saw in students when you first started is now yours. And you're able to block out that heat, that pressure, that demanding teacher's attitude that you do something properly. And all of a sudden you end up with this mind that connects to the body and focuses on the important, which is mentally incredibly beneficial to a world full of multimedia and interruption.
Yeah, you talk about the social life and Facebook and Instagram life in the room, not that you are a part of that, but you talk about how that clouds your mind and how that sort of distracts you. Isn't that right?
This online media and social media is important part of modern world. However, it's so impulsive in its approach to the way it's used. There's studies done that liken it to cocaine addiction, and I don't think anybody wants a cocaine addiction. Do you know what I mean?
No, apart from it being expensive, it's bad for your health, right?
Particularly unstabilizing for your brain.
Yeah.
So if you want to get out of bed and enjoy the day, and then do a good thing, whatever you're doing with your time, and feel at the end of the day you don't need a vice to unwind, yoga like ours is brilliant for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love that. So what's next for the studio? I know that's challenging times at the moment.
Get us through COVID.
Yeah.
See what the restrictions are on reopening. We're a big space. We're 360 square meter space. So obviously what the government allows us to do, and in what stages and capacities they allow us to do will define us reopening. Look, reopening is a matter of sending an email to the community and saying we're open. That's all we'll need to do. It's a long, good, healthy, well-embedded yoga community. We won't have to do a lot. We'll just have to open and let people know we are reopened.
Yeah. And look, I have no doubt about that. Francesca and yourself, you run an amazing business. I witnessed that obviously with my first class here and continuing to come back, just the general community. There's one of the guys that pulled me up, one of my second time here is like, hey, it's my name. If it looks like your first time here, how are you finding it? Like, just made friends with me out of nothing. And then you put on one of your educational days where I came
little seminar.
And that was interesting as well. But then we had sushi after that and we were chatting with everyone and people just coming up to you and having a chat with you. So you've built a really amazing community. That's probably the most important thing that I can feel here. Well,
one of our goals was to build another room of our house. So it wasn't to have a business. Yeah. It was to have a yoga school that reflected our personal values in yoga and in life.
Yeah.
And lucky they're very close, both of those things. The yoga values and our personal values are close. So we've never used modern stimulation for our business to grow it. We've just used a wholesome, honest approach, and rare things become valuable, I guess.
They do, and like it's effortless, but you can see that you put a lot of effort into it, if that makes sense. But just the way that your persona is, like, just cool, it's calm. It's like, you want to come, you can come. If you don't want to come, you don't have to come. Like, you know, you're going to put 100% into it, and you want the people that come in here to do the same thing for you.
Yeah, sure.
Because that's stimulating for you as well, I'd imagine.
I think it's rewarding to see people get the benefit out of this form of yoga done really well. I think there's lots of people in the world in business that just do it because they can be in business and make money, and that's the last thing that Francesca and I think of when we hop on the podium and teach. We think, what are they going to go home with? What is going to help them in their life? And in doing so, they come back. It's a different way of looking at it. It's not about getting them in and getting them to buy a yoga pass. It's about giving them something so valuable they want to come back and buy a yoga pass. Yeah. It's in the opposite way of running a business. So we wanted to open this up as a community extension from the way we live under the tree of yoga, which has been a really beautiful journey, to be honest. Yeah, definitely. Look, we appreciate you being on the show. Look, it's been amazing for me to be a part of the actual journey. I mean, I've only been doing this for about a year in this particular studio, but I feel like I'm family. Yeah, like definitely. I enjoy all of your insights. You pop into the office now that we're just around the corner and say g'day, and I love the chats there. And both Francesca and yourself run an amazing business, but again, it's just an amazing community, and I think that's what this area is about. So on behalf of myself and everyone that comes to the school, we want to thank you for everything that you've done. If anyone doesn't do Bikram Yoga, just come down, just try it out, even just for one session, see how you go. Let us know when you're coming and we can be here with you. So thank you again for joining us, and appreciate you being on the show. Appreciate it. Thank you. Cheers.